Oh boy, it's another one of these roundtables from Jubilee where they get a leftist and a liberal and a MAGA and a conservative to debate. I'd like to shout out this Naima Trout. I think that's who that is, because we invited her to the Culture War, and we mostly postponed the Culture War show. Actually, let me just show you. It's coming up November 8th in D.C., but she canceled on us because she wanted money. She wanted money. And the conservatives never do. They are always willing to just come on and do these debates. So I want to make sure I bring that up first before I comment on Jubilee itself as well as this video. Because Jubilee, in my opinion, often frames these things to benefit the left because they're liberals. And, it's fascinating that whenever I do commentary on these videos, I don't even show more than it's less than 10%. I show some principal arguments and then I'll comment on them, give you my thoughts. They always copyright flag it and then give it up. And it's the stupidest thing. Maybe it's automated, but they could just release it. Jubilee. I'm allowed to comment on these videos, especially when it pertains to public matters and how you frame things. And so I want to make sure it's explicitly clear that in my view, these shows are propped up to protect liberals. And so that's what I'm going to show you, as well as counter some of the arguments made by these individuals. But I want to give a shout out to Naima. When we reached out and said we wanted to have the Culture War, we normally don't pay guests. And her booker, I don't know if it was her personally or her booker, because Alex Stein was the one talking to them, said she wanted money. We agreed on $500 because it's a small venue event. It's not, we lose money doing it. It's like if we were going to make $1 million, I'd pay everybody money. You know what I mean? But we lose money doing it. We're trying to establish the show. And she said $500. I wonder how much Jubilee paid her to be here. Because liberals won't do it. Why? They're grifters and they're fake. All you need to know about this whole debate is that the left will argue if they're paid to argue, and the right will show up and plead their case for free. Her booker came back and said, you know what? 500 is too low because she got a better offer. Can you do 5,000? And we said, yeah, absolutely not. I immediately then told our booker, offer someone else 5,000. This liberal didn't take it, but I was like, it'd be funny because just, we're not going to give you that. You're playing stupid games with us. We'll give it to somebody else and make it a funny thing. The funny thing is we tried to give this other woman money. She didn't take it. So I respect that. Anyway, let's play, see what they got going on. Experiencing interruptions. Well, it's probably okay. Here we go. It's probably because I have a autoplay blocker.
Trump. They're going to call their they're going to call their doctor. Let me. Can I please finish?
Go ahead.
Great.
Round table from Jubilee.
Hey, I'm Adam, and I'm a progressive.
Hi, I'm Naima, and I'm a leftist.
Hey, I am at Nuclear, and I am a conservative.
What does that mean?
Hey, my name is George, and I am a Trump supporter.
What does
and
that
you're
mean?
watching Roundtable. Let's get into it.
The president signed it into law. Democrats voted against it, of course. And it's been wildly successful.
What you did was narrow the eligibility for certain people to get access to the
I don't care at all about government shutdown. We're going to skip ahead to political violence. And I don't know exactly where that starts. Portland is currently a war zone. Okay, I like this one. This is what I was looking for. I didn't know they were going to specifically mention Portland, but let's go to the beginning. Oh, look at this. They got some kind of commercial.
Portland is burning to the ground. You have agitators, insurrectionists. All you have to do is look at the television, turn on your television, read your newspapers. It's burning to the ground. The governor, the mayor, the politicians are petrified for their lives.
Okay.
I just love
Everybody
the way
laughed.
he says things. Portland is currently a war zone and needs the National Guard to intervene.
That's kind of good.
I mean, a Trump-appointed judge, Judge Immergut, just said a couple days ago that the president's determination is, quote, not tethered to reality. There is no real reason here to not just, I mean, if the state's governor wants to call in the National Guard, that's one thing. This is Trump trying to circumvent the state's governor to federalize the National Guard.
Oh, time is not on your side, liberal. Because, I have this pulled up. Trump can deploy the National Guard to Portland Appeals Court says. Predicted perfectly by our friend Will Chamberlain. Oregon Attorney General urges the full appeals court to review the decision while governor says the fight is not over. Nice try. How about that? Wrong. And it's embarrassing because they uploaded this video the day the Ninth Circuit said, yeah, actually, Trump is right.
and send them in. And what it actually is part of a broader trend and a movement towards authoritarianism in this country.
Can I ask a quick question? What is the violent rate per capita in Portland right now?
I don't have the crime stats memorized, but I do know that violent crime is down.
Can you guess?
Were you talking about homicides or like robberies?
Just violent crime in general per capita.
I couldn't tell
Nobody
you.
knows.
Just guess.
Just guess.
I mean, I'm not going to guess about
720 out of 100.
And you know that's going down, right?
Yeah. So it's going down over what month specifically?
It's gone down since 2024.
I'd like to interject. On April 1st, 2020, the population from census.gov of Portland was 652,503. Beautiful place, by the way, in Portland, Pacific Northwest. The beautiful Alaskan rainforests that you can see sprawling from the sky. I don't know if you can actually see the Alaskan rainforest, but it's a rainforest up in Seattle. July 1st, 2021, 643,000. Whoa, that's about 9,000 less. Then we've got July 1st, 2022, 634,000. Oh, it's going down. Holy smokes, July 1st, 2023, it went down to 6,000. Oh, my heavens me. Why would the population of Portland be dropping? Perhaps there's no young people. One reason, as cited by many individuals who have fled Portland, is the crime, lawlessness, and political atmosphere. You can't run your business. The Antifa, in one story, smashed up like a computer store and just took all their stuff outside in the street and burned it. And it was just a computer store. Anyway.
The last 7 months.
Continue,
Can I
gentlemen.
interject actually really quick? I do have the crime stats for the first half of 2025 for Portland. I'm going to read from my notes if that's okay.
Under Trump.
Okay, cool. Well, he's not the governor, but sure. So kind of. Homicides are down currently in Portland by 51%. Overall violent crime is down by 17%. Aggravated assaults are down by 18%. Robberies are down 10%. Sexual assault reports are down 12%. And shootings are down 31% compared to this time last year.
Hey, and I'm going to go ahead and once again cite the population decline. People are leaving because of the crime. Less people means less crime. There's also many factors that liberals won't tell you about. First, let me caveat by saying it's entirely possible that crime is just generally going down and that Portland's seeing an improvement. I can respect that. That doesn't change the fact that there are far-left extremists that have continued to, for years, terrorize the city. It's not like they're everywhere or a million people. It could be only a few hundred, but it is. Now, one thing I often bring up that is an example of the challenges in stats. Murder rates went down dramatically in the end of the 2000s, and it wasn't because people realized murder was wrong. It wasn't because there was an increase in policing. It was because of the introduction and ubiquity of cell phones. See, in the 90s, if someone got stabbed, they'd fall down and they'd say, "Quick, call for help," and they'd have to go find a phone. They'd yell, "Help, help," knock on a door, "Someone call 911." With cell phones, someone gets stabbed, they take their phone, 911. This meant that many, what used to be murders, turned into aggravated assaults with a deadly weapon. Not even necessarily attempted murder. So when you're trying to track the crime stats without the death, you don't actually have the crime anymore, and the crime goes down. This does not mean people are waking up to the realities of violent crime and changing their ways.
So I think generally to say that Portland currently right now is on fire is a gross misinterpretation of what is happening there. In fact, the governor of Oregon said the exact same thing.
And I will respond to your argument, Naima, by saying, I wish I could afford to get you out here. You're so famous. My response is the level of crime as to it, whether it goes up or down, is not a response to whether or not it's currently a war zone. Now, to be fair, this guy may actually say this, but my point is, if Afghanistan, let's do Ukraine. If they come out and they're like, murders in Ukraine have dropped by, 73%. It's like, oh, pack it in, boys. We're all done. We don't got to do anything to help the Ukrainians. Oh, there's still landmines. People are still being shot at. Or maybe the occupation is still happening. Right. The point is, the amount of crime happening is, percentage-wise, is not the issue. We're talking about, can we live and sustain an environment in this number of crime, this amount of crime as a whole? So another way to put this is, I went to Caracas 10 years ago, and 11 years ago, and they said Caracas is the murder capital of the world. There's more murders there than anywhere else. But hold on there a gosh darn minute. You see, The left said, no, that's not correct. Honduras is the murder capital of the world. They have more murders per capita than anywhere else. Okay, the issue was that in Venezuela and Caracas, they had more murders, period, than anywhere else. As a bigger city, they had a lower murder rate per capita, but more murders. This is true for many cities like Portland. Because of population size, you might be saying they had a million robberies. Not Portland. Let's say Portland has 10,000 robberies, so the per capita rate is higher than New York, which had 20,000 robberies, but 10 times as many people. I am not saying this means either of them are right or wrong. I'm saying the consideration as to the decline in crime is not what matters. What matters is there a roving band of lunatics who are smashing up business and getting away with it? Indeed. Can you run your business? No. Have people fled the city because of this? Indeed. Okay. So it's good to see that crime is going down in other ways, but people are still fleeing because of the specific political crime.
Crime goes up and crime goes down, but a 720 violent crime rate per capita is crazy and insane if you compare it to like most American cities. So it's not necessarily a war zone per se, but it's still a mess and absolutely horrible.
He called it an insurrection, though. It's not an insurrection.
Is that grounds to send in the National Guard? I mean,
Yes.
policing is local.
But policing
Why do
is
you want the
local,
federal government to do this?
He is correct. It's to specific. It's 723 per 100,000. 7.23 per thousand is the current. Whoa! Portland ranks second in violent crime in Oregon. Well, that makes sense. It's the big city. You're not going to see as much crime out in the middle of nowhere. So that is really bad. Let's check. I'll let him talk, and then I'll check another city.
Sometimes police is not enough. That's
Here,
Actually, in fact, the chief of police...
Have you seen what happened in Washington?
What are you referring to?
Right. So when Trump, for example, called in a National Guard in Washington, crime went down in every single facet of the
No, I'm sure crime
Sometimes
goes
police
down.
is not enough.
Crime would also go down if everyone had a personalized drone following them, but we have civil
Seattle is actually the same.
civil liberties in this country, and there's always a give and take between crime and freedom. And sure, you could have martial law, and I'm sure crime would go down, but no one wants that.
There's a difference between civil liberties and anarchism.
The actual chief of police of Portland.
So according to my cursory, the light just changed again. The national rates are around 380 to 420. So Seattle and Portland have double. They have, let's just get the numbers right, 35 to 40% higher violent crime in Portland and Seattle. What are these people arguing? I don't get it. If you come out and you say Portland has 30 to 40% higher crime on average than any other city. Yeah, okay, that's bad. Why are they defending this? Why don't you just go, yeah, that's bad. They just hate Trump.
Was quoted saying it's not a narrative that's consistent with what's actually happening now.
He also said, and that's wait, you're talking. Who did you say, Bob or no?
Bob J. Yeah, the chief.
Okay,
of police.
yeah, they were also quoted. I think it's the chief of police. I'm not sure if it's the same guy, but he was saying that they're also resource constrained, and we can get into what the role of federalism and like what the role of federal government is. But when you have these cities, these sanctuary cities, which by the way, I don't know why they're called sanctuary cities. When I picture a sanctuary, I picture like a peaceful, tranquility, little birds singing and dancing together. You go to these sanctuary cities, what is it? Open drug markets, fentanyl, like needles on the ground, human feces, people bent over.
Yep.
Like they should be called.
It's a sanctuary city. It's not a utopia.
Sure, but it should be called zombie apocalypse like city, or like apocalyptic city, because that's what it looks like. When you look at actually all of these sanctuary policies, they completely. Do you know what the lowest common denominator of sanctuary policy is around the United States? All of these cities, what they have in common is that they have to avoid, or it's a deliberate action to not intervene anything with immigration enforcement.
Not cooperate with federal authorities.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you claim
But that doesn't mean you're not
authoritarian.
policing.
Like being
No,
like
it actually does. It means it's literally a breeding ground for drug traffickers, human traffickers, and for criminals. Like if I was a Democrat, I would love these, or if I was a criminal, I would love these Democrat policies because it's literally you can get away with anything.
I think you're conflating two things. Sanctuary cities is referring to the immigration policy of a specific city. It's not referring to how crime and violent crime is
The
policed.
two are tied because a lot of these sanctuary policies have extremely left-wing police reform, decriminalization.
Yes.
They don't.
Yeah, let me try and clarify for this fine gentleman here. there's an umbrella of Democrat policy which includes sanctuary cities. Illegal immigrants, cartel members, drug dealers, and human traffickers are going to say it is preferable we go here. One, we won't be deported, and the left has very lax crime policies. For example, with Trump sending in the National Guard, I can give you one example. Let's do this. I want to make sure I pull up the sources for you guys because that's important. Children marijuana farm, California. See if I can find this story. So we'll just go with the House oversight. GOP demands answers on migrant children rescued at marijuana farm. This is from July. So let me clarify this for you. Donald Trump sent in immigration enforcement in California where they discovered child slaves working on pot farms. Now, I can get very, very heavy with it and say, child slaves working on a drug farm. It's marijuana. I don't think marijuana is that bad. I don't smoke. I don't think people should smoke, but people shouldn't drink either, and I don't drink. So, you know, I'm more libertarian in that regard. But let me just stress, child slaves in California, child slaves. You've lost any moral high ground left. I don't get it. They argued Trump was wrong to do it. The Democrats are currently in favor of slavery. You think that's being cute or a joke? I'm going to say it again. These traffickers, these coyotes, these cartels are bringing children across the border to work as slaves. This is well known and documented. The way it works is they say, you can call it indentured servitude. I call it slavery. Indentured servitude is still illegal. They say, we're going to bring you across the border. We're going to bring you to America. You will work for us as long as we say. They then bring these people to America who think life's going to be better. And then their children, these are 13-year-olds, end up working on drug farms against their will. So these kids, I call them slaves because the parents will bring them against their will. And the kids are forced to work on a farm against their will, and they can't leave. So this is what the Democrats are protecting. And it's crazy to me because it's simple to just be like, yeah, we're against that. It's a good thing Trump stopped it. Trump shouldn't do this, but he could do that. That's fine. They don't. Instead, they say, no, Trump's wrong no matter what.
Arrest you for stealing. It's literally people stealing in broad daylight.
If you break the law and you get caught, you get arrested.
And you get let out within a couple days.
No. You get let out in a couple of hours, and you don't always get arrested. Like in San Francisco, where they passed this ordinance in the city where they said, if it's less than $900, it's a minor infraction, and they're not gonna stop you. And it's not just that. Because of the constraints on policing, I guarantee you, in Chicago, in LA, in San Fran, if you call the police and say a man just came here and stole a soda and some candy bars and a sandwich, it was like $30, $40, the cops are going to be like, what do you want us to do about it? You can't take the food product back. It's trash now. Why should we dispatch anybody? So what happens? More and more people are shoplifting and stealing because the cops are like, we don't care. We're not going to do anything about it.
Like you make bail. That's how that works.
These policies, what I'm saying is that these sanctuary city policies is part of a bigger ethos that literally just is soft on crime, and it's just horrible for the average, person living, the average lower class, middle class person living there. The politicians that pass these policies are completely insulated from any of these effects.
I just want to make sure we're not shifting the goalpost, which is that this has reached a level that warrants the National Guard. I'm pretty sure Naima and myself are not pro-violent crime, but there's a question of what can state and local authorities handle, and when does the president have the statutory authority to federalize the National Guard? Sure. And again, you guys can say, okay, we disagree with Judge Immergitt, who said that Trump's determination is, again, quote, not tethered to the facts, and every judge, he then...
I just love that this guy was willing to use a debate point for a pending litigation. Now, you watch Mr. Tim Pool. What I often say, it is currently pending adjudication. That one judge says yes, but a judge may say no, so we don't know where this is going to end up. Like I said with Kilmar Abrego Garcia, don't go so heavy on your talking points, brother, because then this will happen to you. Trump can deploy the National Guard troops to Portland. This lower court judge was wrong. Trump's authority to federalize the National Guard is like usually whenever. It's not the Insurrection Act. The Insurrection Act is different.
Try to circumvent that judge's ruling by sending in the California National Guard, and the judge also stopped that. Now he's sending in the Texas National Guard into Illinois. And the fact that you guys are going to sit here and try to justify that red state troops are being sent into a blue state against the wishes of that state's governor, like this is insane authoritarian backsliding, and you're trying.
It's not, and I'll explain why. Abraham Lincoln. Backsliding is what I'm arguing. You can argue authoritarian, but I don't like that word. Authority is not authoritarian. Authoritarian is just when there's no democracy. But you see, the people of this country as a whole voted for Donald Trump, specifically on immigration grounds and economic grounds. Donald Trump is now enforcing immigration law, and he's sending in the National Guard to protect them. Federal facilities, federal law enforcement. You, sir, are wrong about Trump's right to deploy the National Guard. I've already made this determination. In Chicago, the judge said Trump can federalize because he has the authority to do so, but he can't deploy, which is also insane and will likely get overturned because what do you mean? Trump's allowed to tell the National Guard to stand wherever he wants. They can't enforce domestic law without invocation of the Insurrection Act. So this is, once again, good sir, incorrect.
Trying to make it a conversation about crime when the larger picture here, let me just finish real quick, is that Stephen Miller is calling these judges who strike them down insurrectionists. They're calling them aiding and abetting terror. When you
so let me just point out, they called Trump supporters insurrectionists. They called Trump staffers. They arrested Trump's lawyers. Stop playing this game. It doesn't work on me. I don't care. I don't care if you win. I don't care if I win. I care what is. And what is that Democrats arrested Trump's lawyers, hunted people down across the country for nonviolent civil disobedience. I'm not talking about rioters. I'm talking about people who had misdemeanor trespass, who got hunted down and sent to prison for years. Not a joke. Authoritarian backsliding is when the American people, popular majority, or I should say the popular plurality, elect Donald Trump, say we want enforcement of immigration. When then governors of these states obstruct, when judges obstruct and lie and fabricate claims to block Trump's authority, and then Trump ends up winning again in the courts, that is democracy or constitutional republicanism. So, bro, you are just insanely out of your depth here. You're wrong. Not to mention, I'll say it again, ooh, it must be so embarrassing to cite a lower court when you knew it was pending appeal. Now, I'm not saying Trump is completely correct so far. The initial assessment that we've seen is that Trump can deploy and federalize National Guard at his largely discretion. Typically, the idea is if local law is not being enforced, and that is what's happening.
Start labeling the judicial branch insurrectionists and terrorists, you are setting a groundwork to centralize more power in the executive branch, which I thought you guys wanted small government, but apparently when it's Trump.
Sorry, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take a big old water balloon and onto that argument. Joe Biden had Trump's lawyers arrested. I'm going to say it again. Joe Biden had Trump's lawyers arrested. They didn't commit any crimes. Jenna Ellis was charged with RICO for simply providing legal services. That is evil. So you can come out and say, yes, but Trump did bad thing. And don't you? Listen, first of all, there's no argument for arresting a lawyer. None. And they say, but she committed a crime. Shut your mouth, you liar. She committed no crime. She drafted a letter at Trump's request. That's legal services. Now, Trump having a dispute over the authority of the executive branch versus the judicial branch is standard constitutional Republican practice.
Trump, he gets to be a dictator.
Sure.
And you might say that's an exaggeration.
It's
not a straw man. Stephen Miller was just on CNN, and he accidentally let it slip that Trump has plenary power, which means absolute power. So is it your guys'
plenary power on what? The National Guard? Because he does. That's the executive branch.
Understanding that the President of the United States has unquestionable and unchallengeable power to federalize the National Guard of any state and send them anywhere for any reason.
It's not unquestionable because the judge...
For any reason. Like, see, that's where they move the goalposts. I make this point a lot about how fact checkers work, and they say things like, did Trump do a backflip on Sunday? Or, maybe not. Let's not use the backflip analogy. Donald Trump buys an ice cream cone for a child. Everybody shares a video saying, wow, look at Trump buying his ice cream cone for a child. He's so nice. Then you'll get these fact checkers and they'll go, did Trump really buy an ice cream cone for a child on Sunday? Then you'll get false. This big, long thing about how Trump, here's the argument everyone's making. Then all the way at the bottom, it'll say, while Trump did buy an ice cream cone for a child on Saturday, it wasn't Sunday. You see how he adds something to the claim. Trump claims he has the authority to dispatch the National Guard at any point for any reason. Whoa. No one said at anywhere for literally any reason, because plenary power does not mean that Trump can deploy the National Guard to, go buy him an ice cream cone. Actually, he probably could. But, if Trump said, I'm going to deploy the National Guard to go rob a bank and kidnap children, you can't do that. So, no, that's where they go. They create an argument no one had.
is actually blocking it. So again, judges can, for example, make specific rulings. When it came to Chicago, the judge didn't block it because they ruled that it was legal.
So we only got to, I don't want to go too long. I want to jump ahead to the claims of violence in general. And you guys can take a look at the rest of the, if you want. It's an hour and 20 minutes long.
And the opponent's argument of states' rights, I think everyone respects states' rights, but there comes a time where if a state and the local government
problem, it's the exact reverse, right? Exact reverse. You look at the ADL Center for Extremism, which looked at 444 people killed by extremists between 2013 and 2022, 75% of them by the right. You look at the University of Maryland study that was done for their terrorism center, which found that from 1948 to 2018, right-wing extremists more likely to carry out violence than left-wing extremists. You look at the head of the FBI who Donald Trump appointed, Chris Wray, who said the #1 domestic terror threat in this country comes from religious and racially motivated extremists, specifically white supremacists.
Most political violence is perpetrated by the right.
False.
You guys want to kick this one off because it feels kind of.
Well, I think we have to mention his study. He referenced the ADL and some other study. I think we can all agree that the way that right-wing and left-wing violence is, the methodologies they use is kind of loose. For example, they consider any Antifa violence or anything that's anti-government or anti-authoritarian as being on the right because it's against liberty. There's some really bad methodological issues with the study.
I don't know about Antifa specifically, though.
Nodding.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, every single study is going to have like slightly different definitions on what cases they're looking at and what qualifies.
But let's prove this real quick for you guys. This is the ADL heat map, and I actually think this feller may be making reference to one of my videos because this is something that I bring up quite a bit. When you search on the ADL for ideology, you can see white supremacist is right wing, anti-government is right wing, and right wing has an other category which includes, anti-abortion, anti-Muslim, anti-immigration, and anti-public lands. Huh? What? Left wing is defined as anarchists. What? It also includes black nationalists. What? The distinctions here make literally no sense. So I'm going to make it really clear for you guys. Yes, they put out these studies and they say the right is responsible for so much more violence. But when you look at the ADL and they create 3 distinct categories like anti-government, patriot militia movement, sovereign citizens, these aren't right-wing. Anti-protest, and the tax protests? If you're mad about taxes, you're right-wing. I mean, this is how insane it really is. So let me help y'all out and make this really simple for you guys. There is more diversity of thought on the political right than on the left. In this cluster, this blue cluster, there is a high concentration of political violence that we refer to as blunt terror. That means getting punched in the face, getting attacked. And I actually think I have a video for you guys. This guy gets attacked while he was walking around at the No Kings protest. They hit him in the head, and they steal his hat and then hit him in the head and punch him several times. So you don't really see it, but you can see them grab his hat. Let's jump forward. Okay. Right. There you go. They grab his hat, then they attack him. You get it. Okay. That's left-wing violence. That's not going to make the ADL heat map. They're going to argue, no, that doesn't count. Aaron Danielson was shot twice in the chest. They said that was not left-wing political violence. So when the right is massive and the left says anybody on the right who commits violence is right-wing violence, right? But the argument is, what they're basically saying is the right is a disparate set of ideologies, and anyone who is not left who commits violence is right. That's the lie they use. Because the left is this very tiny cult-like cluster of opinion, the right's massive. So I'm going to put it very simply for you. Most political violence is not perpetrated by the right. When we talk about the right wing of this country, we're typically talking about the majority of people who are run-of-the-mill, working-class people, and they vote for Donald Trump. Or they vote Republican. You then have fringe groups like white supremacists, which don't align with the Republican Party. Charlie Kirk, for instance, famously kicked white supremacists and white nationalists out of his events. Not a joke. Watch the videos. He says, you're not welcome, and he throws them out. So when that guy then commits violence, how is that right wing if they are fighting each other? Now, the left, as I already mentioned, is a tight-knit cluster. When we refer to the left, we're talking about this very small subset of idea, a large faction of individuals. You can see it's very dark blue. That's the important distinction. Charlie Kirk's alleged assassin had the same ideology as Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. That is scary. When a guy at the No Kings protest tells people to take up guns, that is scary. You get the point. Then you take a look at the right, and some white nationalist or racist guy commits a crime. Charlie Kirk, conservatives, Trump, they all condemn it. So that's not the right. Of the principal political factions for which the majority exist within, liberals support, defend, and call for violence. Conservatives do not. I am not going to defend any violent extremist with a crackpot ideology, but nor will I let you claim that some random white supremacist extremist wants to shoot up a church is indicative or representative of anything in the conservative movement.
Definitionally as being political violence? Is it that you have strong political beliefs and then you do something violent, or you had a actual political motive in what you did?
Yep.
I mean, these are hard conversations to have. Like the most threatening act of political violence this country has faced in recent memory was obviously January 6th in terms of what it represented as a threat to this country.
Bro, I got no problem saying the riots of January 6th were bad because it threatened the electoral counting process. I also have no problem saying the worst riots we've seen in 50 years were the George Floyd riots. People's businesses were destroyed. It was billions of dollars in damage. To claim that January 6th was worse in any way is laughably absurd. Laughably absurd.
You can look at the 2019 El Paso Walmart shooting. In 2017 and 2018, you had the church shooting and the synagogue shooting, which were done by far-right white supremacists. Now, I will admit that I think the CSIS just said that in 2025 is the first year in the last 30 years that left-wing...
So again, I'm going to stress this. What they're doing is they're saying, you're a run-of-the-mill conservative who hates white supremacy. We're lumping you in with a deranged white supremacist extremist. Why? I'm not going to lump this guy in with some crackpot anarcho pipe bomber. I will lump him in, however, with AOC, because they probably agree, surprise, surprise, these people on the ground cheering for Charlie Kirk's murder and calling for more agree with him. That's the issue.
Political violence is more common than right-wing political violence, but in that statement, you're also looking at the past 30 years, it was actually the other way around. So obviously, I think everyone here...
Which is immaterial, honestly. If you want to make the argument that right-wing political violence 30 years ago was really bad, I'll go, okay. Sure. I was a child. I had nothing to do with it. It does not represent me or anybody I know. Next question. If you want to have an argument about today, what we've been experiencing, yes, even in the past several years, they've lied to construe this worldview to these cultists that the right is more violent. They are not. I have nothing in common with a violent white nationalist extremist. I am a mixed race person, and I believe in universal health care. Don't play those stupid games.
Would condemn all political violence. I mean, ideally it's not great, but I think it's important to understand that the right foments this, and in a lot of cases actually encourages it and celebrates it.
Sure, I think you can look at and find...
Celebrates it. Not a single person celebrated George Floyd's death in the mainstream conservative movement. Shortly afterwards, I'm talking weeks and months, when it was found out that he was chewing on a speedball, many then began to critique, criticize, and even mock. Nobody's celebrating the death in any mainstream capacity. Prominent conservatives will not do it because it's bad. When Charlie Kirk got killed, mainstream liberals celebrated, defended, or smeared Charlie's good name.
Specific references like January 6th. I mean, sure, there's political violence in that aspect, but for example, how many billions of dollars worth of damages were caused during January 6th? That didn't exist. In reference to, for example, BLM riots, how many people were killed? Over 100 people were killed. Businesses were looted. Basically Minneapolis on fire. Billions of dollars, $2 billion worth of damages. People setting random cars on fires. People looting. I mean, one thing Republicans don't do when they get something they really don't like, for example, like Charlie Kirk getting politically assassinated, is they hold vigils. They hold peaceful memorials. What they don't do is they don't riot, loot from stores, and start being uncivil. And it's kind of like something that's innate with the left in general, is that...
And I will elaborate a little bit. He's correct. Point being, Charlie Kirk's memorial is a representation of the mainstream right wing in political discourse. Some white supremacist shows up to a church to shoot black people. It's antithetical to what that memorial represented and what Charlie Kirk represented and what Charlie Kirk believed in. And the left lies about it to justify killing a good man.
They have this sense of like being uncivil, like, oh my God, I really didn't get something I politically wanted. Let me go ahead and loot from a small business. Like, are we forgetting? Like, yeah.
Can I follow up on that? And this is from the study he referenced, the CSIS study that they excluded. It says in the exclusion, most Antifa violence 20 plus attacks of Tesla vehicles and firebombing, the June firebombing of the pro-Israel Solidarity Walk. This is all excluded. This is all obviously left-wing violence excluded.
Yep.
Right.
The BLM riots were excluded. Many violent encounters on ICE agents were excluded. This is according to their section. It's in the appendix. And like I said, anything with racial supremacy, anti-government tyranny, anti-abortion, for example, if there's an attack on an abortion clinic, that's automatically labeled as right-wing.
Well,
And this is what they do. The left, when it comes to these charts, is only ever, are you an economic Marxist? Because if your BLM doesn't count, if your Antifa doesn't count. Now, I don't got too much time, so I'll let Naima respond, and then I'm gonna wind this down.
Which, like,
I don't know.
but
people are like, let's get
fair enough. But the point is that they consider anything that's culturally conservative as right-wing.
well, yes.
But again, let's talk about.
That's
They
not always
consider
the case.
anything that's right.
Hold on, but that's anti-government.
I don't get it, man.
Then all of violence is right-wing, like anti-government tyranny.
But something that
it's
is
all
culturally
just-
conservative.
That's the left's argument. If you're violent, you're on the right. And when they're violent, it's in self-defense. That's literally their argument.
It's a synonym for right wing.
If you're qualifying Antifa and anti-government tyranny, like unplanned riots,
but like-
as right wing, do you not realize that there's like a
No, but like
huge
Marxism
issue?
is like capitalism,
And there we
anti-U.S. government, but we would consider it left wing, right?
That's my point.
Okay.
They don't
Exactly.
in the study. That's exactly my point. They
Sure,
exclude. it's
but
in the
saying that
excluded-
something that is socially conservative should not be considered right wing.
Well,
that's a little.
Define socially conservative. Because far leftists believe there should be racial segregation. That's not socially conservative. That's progressive. They want these POC and non-POC segregation. You know what? Because I know there's people who don't believe me. I'm going to pull it up for you. This was famously in Seattle. And let's see. Let me see if I can find. There's an image of it. Non-POC library event. I think it was Seattle. Oh, man. You know, let me see if I... You know what we should do? Let's do POC, non-POC Dearborn. That's easier. We can pull up. We can pull this one up. CBS News. I'm going to give you a single example. University of Michigan Dearborn apologizes for segregated online cafes. They created digital spaces where if you were white or not white, you had a different room. That's not the right wing doing that. However, if the motivating factor is segregation, they'll call it right wing despite it being progressives that are doing it. I recommend you guys watch the full debate if you want to. We only covered a little bit of it. And check it out. Shout out to these gentlemen for the debate. And Naima, maybe one day we can afford to have you on our platform and have a real conversation. You can follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast. Guys, if you made it this far, you are legends. Head over to timcast.com and click join us to get in the Discord server. Have these debates. Community is our strength. Unity is our strength. When they say diversity, they're saying it's theirs because they want to keep you fragmented. Support the work we do here at Timcast. Join us at timcast.com, and we'll see you all in the next show.